Hello everyone, welcome back to the series of Introduction to Programming, where first we have discussed about Scratch interface, and then in the second video we have completed the basics of Scratch 1 project. We have made a monkey catching the falling bananas, right? Where the score and life changes while catching and missing the bananas. Though in this video, we are going to discuss the something very generalized discussion about the programming, where the basic of variable data types, right? What is programming? What is the meaning of programming are being discussed. So this is a very generalized video. It's not specified to any programming language. These are the general concept, which is actually applicable all over the programs. So one by one, we are going to discuss. This is the first slide talking about the introduction. So programming, basically known as coding also, that is a process of creating a set of instructions, right? That is a process of creating a set of instructions, creating a set of instruction that tells a computer that how you are going to perform any kind of specific task, right? So to achieve any specific task, the set of instructions, right? Just like for an example, you have to create a lemonade. To create a lemonade, first you take a glass of water, you add some sugar, you squeeze some lemon, and then you mix it up, and then the lemonade is ready. So these step of instructions, right? What we are talking, taking up a glass of water, taking some sugar, some lemon, right? And mixing it up. So these are called as their instructions to make a lemonade. The same way, if we have to achieve any specific task, if you have to make computer or your machine work on a specific task, we provide them some basic instructions. In our childhood, we have studied that computer is a smart device, but actually it's a wrong thing, right? Because computer is a dumbest device. It's the programmer who make them smart, right? We code all the functionalities inside the computer, and then computer perform their specific task based on that instructions. And these set of instructions are only called as programs, right? And multiple programs, multiple set of functionality attached together to make a software, right? So that software we are been using all these PPT that we have created that based on some kind of software, right? The instruction called as the programs and the written in the language that computer can understand and execute. One thing is here is language, right? So language is basically programming language is one thing that is human readable, and the machine readable code, right? The machine language is something different. Machine language is binary language. We already know that hardware understand only zeros and ones, the binary language. So who is there to translate your human readable code to the machine language, right? There the compiler comes into play, right? One thing which help us to convert these things into uh, the machine level language, that calls as the compiler, right? Compiler is the one thing that we use. If somebody will ask you about compiler, that what is compiler, what you have to say, it's a special program which works as a translator, right? Which translate the human readable code to the machine level language, right? That machine can understand. Then a person writing the code are called as the programmer, and the code of any application are called as the source code, right? The final code is called as source code. Very easy. This is a very basic example given that to understand programming, that what is a program, what is a set of instruction. So any programming that similar to giving a command to the robots. You tell the robot what to do step by step, and it follow your instruction precisely. Similarly, you tell the computer what to do through the code, and it perform those tasks and as instructed. For an example, let's suppose you have to identify that the number entered by the user is a positive number or a negative number. What you will do in that case, we'll provide some set of instruction to the computer. We will tell the computer that whatever the number is, compare it with a zero, right? If it is greater than zero, tell it's a positive number. If it is less than zero, tell it's a negative number. Or if it is equals to zero, tell that it's neither negative nor positive, or it's simply zero, right? So these instruction will give to the computer. Then computer understand it, execute these code, and then they ask for the input from the user. Now whatever user input is, they will compare to the logic and then give the output. The same way the code works. The purpose of programming is to solve the problems and automate the task, right? That why we are doing the programming. So basically to solve the general problems, right? Just like you have to make a word, so we need a software, right, that helps that to make the document properly. We have to make a presentation slides, so we have one software which is dedicated to make the software slides. So that's how it works, right? To automate the task by creating the program, we can instruct the computer to perform a wide range of activities, right? Anything, any activities that can be performed using these instructions. So wide range of activities and some simple calculation, complex task, managing database, designing video games, everything should be managed using these softwares. Now, how does actually it works? How we write a program? What is the steps procedure through which the one program's life cycle goes through? Right. So first of all is the problem definition, that you have to clearly define the problem, right? What problem you want to solve, right? You have to clearly define the problem that you are going to solve. We have to clearly define the problem you want to solve, right? You have to dissolve the problem into the smaller steps so that you can think of all the perspectives before writing the solution. Then we have to develop an algorithm. What is algorithm now? Algorithm simply means the step by step procedure to get the solution of any problem. Just like in simple example, making up a tea. So taking a bowl, adding some milk, tea leaf, sugar, boiling it, then filtering the tea leaf, and tea is ready. So whatever steps, the procedure, the one by one we are going through, taking bowl, adding milk, all these steps are basically called as algorithm. An algorithm is not specified to any programming language. It's generalized. Actually, any simple logic, any algorithm can be applied in any other languages, right? Language has a specific syntax, but algorithm is syntax free. It's language independent, it's syntax free. So this is the one advantage. So in the second step, after clarifying the problem very properly, after getting the exact thing what you need in the output, you have to design the procedure to get the solution, get the output, right? So for that, we make the step-by-step procedure to solve the problem. Now, after writing the algorithm, after having the solution, we have to write in the code that's specified to any language, Java, C, C++, Python, whatever language you are suitable in, you can code that algorithm into the basic languages. Yeah? So we translate our algorithm into the programming language using any text editor or any integrated development environment. What is IDE, by the way? Integrated development environment. So it's a development environment, as the name suggests, that environment where you can develop the new application, right? And why it is integrated? Because it's a combination of multiple things. Here the compiler is also given, some extra extensions are given, editor is given. So the combination of all those things, the complete environment where you can write the code, execute the code, and build something new, that environment is called as a IDE, right? The integrated development environment. After writing up the code, what is the next thing? Next thing is to test the code that it's running fine or not, right? So testing and debugging is the one thing. Debugging means what? Debugging means fixing up the small error or bugs which are being occurring, right? The small deviation from the expected output, the small errors which are coming, right? So to solve these errors, we run the debugging thing. And testing is what? Testing is basically providing some set of sample inputs and getting the output in return, right? To check that the code is working fine or not. For an example, let's suppose we are taking up a program to identify that the number is odd number or even number. So after writing the program, we must test, right, that our logic is working fine or not. For that, we'll provide them the input 2, 3, 4, and see that it's coming even, odd, even or not. Right? If it is coming the same, it means the logic is fine. The testing is a very compulsory step. After writing up the code, we must test our code, right? That it's running on all the devices or not, like it's generalized or not, our logic is correct or not, right? All these things. And next is the deployment. After testing and fixing up all the error and bugs, we deploy our application for the greater use, for the use of the more number of people, right? So sharing the program with the other people to use it for their own purposes. That is the one thing that we do in the deployment section. So this is a complete life cycle of any kind of code or any kind of program, that how to write a program. So first of all, we must define the problem in the simplest manner, right? Then we make a design about that problem. Making design means what? Making design include actually three things. writing up a pseudocode or an algorithm, or making a flowchart, right? So these are the three things that we make in the designing. Writing algorithm means step by step procedure solution, right? Written in the simple English language, does not include any syntax, just one start and end. Two things will be included. All the steps will be numbered, that how many steps you are taking, so that we can identify that which algorithm is fine or which algorithm is more better. So that is the one thing. Then writing up a pseudocode. Now, what is pseudocode? Pseudocode simply means that more aligned towards the code. Here, some kind of structure it follows. The looping statement or the conditional statement you are showing, that follows some kind of structure, right? But it's also syntax free and independent of any kind of language. Then the last thing is the flowchart. Flowchart, using some graphical figures, we represent the flow of the program to identify that after which condition, where does the program flow, and to understand it more clearly, we make the flowcharts. After making the design, after writing the step-by-step procedure solution, we write the code, right? That includes the syntax and some kind of specific structure. For an example, if you are printing something in the C language, what do you write? You write printf. But if you are printing something in the C++, what do you write? You write C out. Same in Java, if you have to print something, what you have to write? System.out.println. So these different structure are specified to the specific language, right? And that thing is called as the syntax. So we have to take care of the syntax while writing the specific language. After writing the code, we test our code, debug, fix up the errors, and then finally deploy to the use of the other people, right? So this is a basic life cycle through which any kind of problem or any kind of program follows through. Some problem mistakes, some common mistakes done, and how to avoid them. So the one thing is called as the syntax error. I told you that while writing any specific program, you have to follow the specific structure or some grammatical rules, that where to put comma, where to put semicolon, where to put parentheses. So all these things are included in the structure, and these are called as a syntax error. If you have missed out some comma, some semicolon in the structure, you will show a syntax error, right? So typographical error or an incorrect grammar in your code, right? And how to avoid these? By using the highlighting or any good editor, any IDE. In the different IDE, you will see a different color occurs. And if you miss out some structure, some syntax, so they will show you the red color there before the execution, that you have to fix those. Now the logical error means the meaning of the program is wrong, right? The error is a logic in your program, the error in the logic, that simply you are creating a wrong output. I told you to write the code of odd even. After writing the code, I am giving the input 4 and the output shows odd number. So it's a wrong output, right? Everybody knows that 4 is even number. So in that case, we have to check our logic, review our logic once again, and that kind of error are called as the logical error. So carefully review your code and logic when you're having this kind of error. Test your program thoroughly with different inputs and use the debugging tools, right, to fix up these errors. The last one is the runtime error, that actually occurs when you have entered some infinite loop where you have started the work but nowhere you are ending the work. In that case, the computer has been frozen for some time, and after some time it will show you the runtime error, right? It means it's never executed completely. Error that occur during the program execution due to the unforeseen circumstances, right? And obviously you are not the first person who is coding that thing, you are writing the program for that problem. So multiple people also in the past has stuck up in these kind of issues or errors. So the solution are there in the browser or somewhere in the other devices, so you have to look or seek help from the online communities or forums for the specific error to find the solution, right? So these three type of error that can occur: syntax error, logical error, or the runtime error. And the solution you can find out with the other sources. Now, what is variable and what is data type? The two thing, right? So whatever we know till now about the memory slots, right, of the computer, this is how we represent the memory slots by making some blocks, right? And inside that block, we store something. Am I right? But what is the variable? Variable simply means naming of a memory location. If I name the variable that x is equal to 10, although we know about variable, that something which can vary or the value which can change is called as variable. So if I write x is equal to 10, what is the meaning here? The meaning is the x is the name of the variable and 10 is the value attached to the assigned to that variable. Or we can say that x is the name of that location where the value 10 is present. Inside this location, what value is present, that value is called as 10. and which can actually change in the further part, right? In the further flow of the program, somewhere we update that x is equals to 7 now. X is equals to 7. So what will happen? The same location where 10 is stored, the 10 will be deleted and the next value which is going to be stored is 7. Right? So this is how it works. That variable means the value which can actually change and which includes two things, the naming of a variable and declaring the data type also. Naming of a variable means what? The naming of a variable simply means naming a memory location, which is a container to hold some values, right? Then we assign the values and the values are being stored at that location. That actually help us at the time of execution when CPU is executing your code and they want to fetch the data from the memory. So they just simply call it by the name of the variable, that give me the value of x, give me the value of y, right? And the value contains the number. So variable are the containers that hold the data and can be assigned the different values during the program execution. Means that the value can be changed, right? That is the basic meaning of variable. And what is constant? Something which cannot be changed, right? So to declare a constant in the program, we write the const keyword before the name. Just like here only, if x is equal to 10, if I write const here, that will become the const x is equal to 10. That means the x is constant now. Now in the further flow, if I'm updating x is equal to 7, they will show you the error because the x is a constant value now. But until unless the const is not written, right, here we'll write the data type, right, the type of data. To declare a variable, you must specify the name and the data type. Now, what is data type? That what type of data this variable can hold, right? And data type actually holds a different kind of data type, has a different size also. So what size of memory allocation will be done to that variable, that is decided by looking to the data type only. So naming of a location and as well as that following the data type of the location, these two things are been given. Followed by an optional assignment statement, right? Some optional assignment operation has been done, just like here. You can see the one equal to, that is called as an assignment operator. That 10 is the value which is assigned to x, right? So this is the one thing that when you are defining a variable, you must have three things. The first, you tell about the data type, that what type of data this variable can hold. Either it can be a word, a single character, or a integer value or the decimal value, what it can hold, right? And then second is the name of that variable, and finally you assign some value. So basically we call the variable into two parts. The one is called as the initialization, where we equate it to some value, and the one is declaration. Declaration contains two things, telling the data type as well as the name of the variable, right? So if I write somewhere int is an symbol basically which is used for the integer type of data. Int y is equals to 20. Now this is a variable where the variable name is y, the value which is assigned to the variable is 20, but the data type, the way y can hold which type of value, integer type of value. Right now we can't store decimal value inside the y. Why? Because y has an integer data type. It means only integer is going to be stored. You can see here one example, the age is equal to 25. That declares the variable name. Name of the variable is age and the type is integer, which is assigned the value of 25. So these are the three different parts of any variable. The name of the variable, the data type and the assigned value, right? So including all these three together, we make one variable. Variable can be reassigned to the new values throughout the program. That we simply know that variables are those who can vary throughout the program, which can change the value, but they cannot change their data type, right? Until you are not changing it. If you have said that it contain only the integer value, you cannot store the decimal value inside it, right? So these are the things. And now we will study some basic data types, right? The basic data type that we have are integer, floats, boolean, character, string, right? So these four will say as a fundamental data type or the primitive data type, whereas the other one are non-primitive or non-fundamental. We are not talking about string. In some languages, string are treated as a fundamental data type. Just like in the Python, string are treated as a fundamental or primitive data type. But in the other language, the string are not treated as fundamental or the primitive one. So we are just excluding string for now. Basic, integer, float, boolean, character are the primitive or the fundamental data type. Now, what is the difference of these two? I'll writing the P and NP, the primitive and the non-primitive type of data types. What is the basic meaning of this? Primitive data type are those data type which are being understood by the compiler, which are being understood by the system itself. Whereas the non-primitive are the human-made data type, where we mix up two primitive one to derive something new, that are called as the non-primitive data type. So to store the whole numbers or integers, we are having the int, right? To represent the integer in the program, what symbol do we write is int, right? To store the decimal values or the fractional values, we have floats kind of data type, and to write in the program, we simply write float, float. That's it, not s. For the Boolean, what symbol do we use to store zeros and ones, or to store the yes, no, true, false kind of thing? The data type, the symbol that we use for this Boolean data type is bool. Whereas for the character, what we write is char, char, right? Char. To store any single symbol, any kind of symbol, hash, dollar, star, right? Sigma, or whatever you say, right? That alpha, beta, gamma, everything, every single symbol. Whereas the alphabetical numericals also A, B, C, D, all these are been single character or symbols are basically called as the char or the character boot data type. String is a sequence of character, or you can simply say to store the words. Just like H is in character, E is in character, but a sequence of character makes a word, right? So hello world is a string. The other data type that we have is array, list, dictionaries. Some are more there, just like of record, right? Record is there. So what is the basic meaning of this? What is the basic meaning of array? Array simply means the combination of multiple numbers into one, the multiple values which can be hold, the collection of similar kind of elements, right? Just like for an example, if I tell you to store the mobile number of 50 people, are you going to use 50 different variable for that? Obviously, no. What we do is we define one array with the size 50, and then all these 50 numbers are being stored inside that array, right? So this is how. And to represent the array, these big brackets are being used. Inside these big bracket, you will see that the 50 is written. It means this shows the size of an array. And how to access the element of this array, by the way, how to access the elements from it? So that being called by the index number starting from 0 and goes till 49 in this case, or simply say the size minus 1. If the size is 50, it's 50 minus 1. If the size is n, it should be n minus 1. So this is how we call the elements from the array. Easy. Now, next is about the operator. Here, two things are there, right? One is called as expression. And expression is actually contains of two things, operand and operator. Two things which has been included in the expression. One is called as the operator. One is called as operator, and other thing is called as operand. Now, what is the difference between these? Right? One thing is called as operands. Sorry for the handwriting. I guess you will manage. So operator means what? Operator means that what operation we are going to perform. What operation? Operation like of summation, addition, right? Addition, subtraction, what you are going to perform. This is called as operator. And operands on which you are going to perform the operation. On which you are going to perform the operation. And expression means what? It's a combination of operand and operator. For an example, if I write x is x plus y, if I write x plus y, so who is operator and who is operand here? So x and y on which we are performing the operation are called as operand, right? These are called as operand. Whereas operator is the plus sign. What operation we are going to perform, right? That thing is called as the operator. So here we are having different type of operators, arithmetic operator, plus, minus, into, divide. Some more are there, just like of modulo, right? Modulo is the one very basic. Then the comparison operator, to compare two values left and right, that these values are equal or not, they are not equal or what, which one is greater, which one is lower, like of this. Then the logical operator, the AND gate, right? OR gate, NOT gate. We know about AND gate, right? If both the conditions are true, then only the output is true. If any one of the condition is true, the output is true, that's OR gate. And to invert the input, to make the true to false or false to true, we use the NOT gate. Whereas the next one is the concatenation operation, the plus sign. Here we need to understand this concatenation operation because it depend upon the data type. If you are having a numerical data type, if you are having an integer and you write 3 plus 5, What should be the answer? 3 plus 5 will be 8, right? But if I write 3 plus, and here we'll write one string, hello, what should be the output now? The output will be simply 3 hello. 3 and hello will be joined together to write 3 hello. There will be no space in between, right? So that plus operator, the plus concatenation operation, basically join the strings. If you're having first name, last name somewhere, and if you write the concatenation application, first name plus last name, what will happen? The full name will be written at the end, right? But in the numerical, it perform the addition. Operation with the incompatible data type may lead to the error. If you are not having a proper data type, so you will show an error. For an example, if I give you 5 by 2, and I am telling you to store the value, store the answer in the integer data type. What will be the answer? Answer is 2.5. Everybody knows 5 by 2 is 2.5. But if you are storing it in the integer data type, what will happen? This 0.5 will be ignored. Only 2 will be stored, right? Whereas if you are having a float data type, this whole 2.5 will be stored. So proper data type for the proper inputs we actually require. Now here, the arithmetic operators plus, minus, into, divide, modulo. We didn't talk about modulo much in the previous slide. Here we'll talk that returns the remainder after the division. Everybody knows about the plus sign. Plus sign provides you the sum, right? Whereas the minus sign provides the difference. The multiply provides you the product of two number. The quotient after division will be given by the divide modulo. But this modulo operator actually provides the remainder, right? If we do 5 modulo 2, 5 modulo 2, then what will be the output? The output will be simply 1, because if you divide 5 by 2, the remainder that you get, 2 2s are 4 and 1 will be the remainder. So 1 is the right answer, right? Whereas this double star is for the power. If I write 2 star star 3 means 2 to the power 3, which is 8. And then the floor division, that actually discard the fractional part. Only the non-fractional part will be the final answer. So that is been happening in the floor division. Easy to understand, I guess. Then we have a comparison operator. What does the comparison operator do? That actually evaluates that the final output is true or false, right? To check the two values of the LHS and RHS. To compare the two values, we use this operator. To compare that both the values are equal or not, we use the double equal to sign. To check that the number are not equals to, we use the exclamation mark and equal to that says not equal to, then greater than, smaller than, greater than equal to, less than equal to, right? These kind of different symbols are being used. Now, the logical operator. Logical operator combines the conditions and the procedure of true and false. For an example, if you are having an AND gate, right? For an example, if somewhere is written like this, that one condition 1 is given, condition 1, and the other condition 2 is given, right? There are two conditions depending upon which we have to take a decision. Now, in the between, if you are having an AND gate, that simply means that if both the conditions are true, if this condition 1 and condition 2 both are true, then only the whole equation will be treated as true, and then the final output will be generated. Otherwise, there will be, if any one of the condition is false, the whole equation becomes false, because it's an AND gate. And same goes with the OR gate. What happens in the OR gate? If any one of the condition is true, the whole equation will be treated as true. And to reverse the value from true to false, false or false to true, we use the NOT gate. So easy. Now we are having a flow of a statement, that how the programming statements flows, right? What is the conditional statement, looping statement? So I'll say that these flow of a statement are basically of three types. One is called as the sequence. One is called as sequence, where the same sequence as it is written, line by line, same code get executed. Simply, I tell you to add three numbers. What will be the procedure? Take three numbers, store num1 plus num2 plus num3 somewhere, and then print that sum. Easy, right? Each line of code get executed, nothing gets skipped. That is called a sequence. The number second one is selection, where some part of code gets selected, right? And some part of code is been not implemented due to some condition. That's called as a selection. And the next one is looping. Looping means repetition, right? We repeat some line of code. We repeat some line of code to some extent, and that is called as the repetition of the statement. Now, see one by one what happens. control the flow of execution based on some kind of condition. For an example, the same example has been copied. As we are checking that the number is even or odd, what is the procedure? We check that the numbers, whatever number input by the user, the numbers modulo with the 2 is equals to 0 or not. All right. If the remainder after dividing it by 2 is 0, what do we say? We say that this number is even. Else what happen? Else, if it is not true, if the remainder after dividing the 2 is not 0, what do we say? We say that this number is odd, right? So what will happen? The program is flowing. Let's suppose the some line of code are coming after here, right? And then suddenly it says that if if the entered number by the user, if it is modulo with the 2 is 0, then print even, else print odd. So only here, only either even or either odd will be printed, right? Both cannot be printed for the same number. If the number is 2, 2 modulo 2 is 0, true. So even will be printed and then it comes out of this block and then simply next line of code gets executed, right? If the number is 3, 3 modulo 2 is not equals to 0. So they will skip this even, right? And simply print odd. So what is happening? We are selecting a specific line of code for the execution depending upon some condition. And that kind of statements are called as the conditional statement that control the flow of the execution based on some kind of condition. So one is called as the if else block that execute the one block of code if the condition is true and other if the condition is false, right? If the condition is true, the if block code get executed. If the condition is false, the else block of code get executed. And the other conditional statement, the procedure is the switch cases that we provide a different cases, and two keywords which are being used here is continue and break. We provide just like in for an example, if I tell you to print the name of the day depending upon the number, where Sunday is equal to 0, Monday is equal to 1, and so on till Saturday, it's 6. Till the 6, it's Saturday. So what will happen? In that case, we'll write like this, that if case number 1, right? Case number one, the given number, the given input, then we provide a condition here that given input, the n is equals to 1. Now, if n is equals to 1, what you have to do? You have to print Monday, right? N is equal to 0 was Sunday. So case 1, n is equal to 1, print. Now we'll tell them to print Monday, right? And then break it, then come out of this. After printing Monday, come out of this, or either we'll say continue for the next case, right? If it is false, if this one is false, if n is equal to not equal to 1, then you have to continue to the next one, right? So we continue to the next case. Here again, the case number 2 will be written, case 2, where n is equal to 2, then Tuesday, like of this will be given. So that kind of selection depends upon the value that execute a different code block depending on the value of the variable. Whatever value of n is there, depending upon that value, the different cases has the different statements to be printed, and that is called as a switch case. The next one is looping statement, right? Where the repetition, where we repeat a block of code, right, for the multiple times. For an example, if I tell you to print the number 1 to 100, are you going to write 100 print statement, print 1, print 2, print 3? Obviously, no. What do we do is we simply take one variable, let's suppose variable a, and then we tell to print the value of a. We provide the variable a value is 1. Now we simply say print the value a and then increase it by 1, right? That call as the increment operator, plus plus. We'll say that print a, then a plus plus, and keep doing it until the value becomes 100, right? For if the value becomes 101, don't do it. So depending upon some condition, we are being repetitively doing the same statement, and as soon as the condition gets false, we leave that statement. So that's how what happened in the for loop, while loop, or the do while loop. When you actually know that how many times you have to run the loop, you apply for the for loop. Let's suppose we know that here to print the 100 number, we have to run the loop for 100 times. So in that case, we use the for loop. But when you don't know the exact number about which you have to execute the code, then you are been using a while loop, right? Where the condition, where the execution depends upon some kind of condition until the condition is true. For an example, let's suppose that we are taking that keep doing the sum of two number until the user don't say no. What will happen in that case? right? That two numbers will be asked from the user. User provide two number. System provide the sum of these two numbers. Then again, system asks, give me two numbers. Until user don't say no, keep doing the same. In that case, we'll use the while. We know that in some case the user say no and then the loop will break. But we don't know after how many times, after 2 times, 4 times, 7 times, after how many times exactly the user will say no. So in that case, we'll use the while loop. Whereas the other one is do while loop. When you have to execute the code once without checking the condition, then it is said to be the do while loop. What happens in do while loop is look like this, that it should be written do. After writing do, they will have some statement to be executed. And after the statement, at the last, we'll have the while, right? And in that while, what will happen, that some condition will be given. Some condition will be given. So first of all, the first execution will be depending without checking the condition. This code will get executed at once. For the second time, they will check the condition. Now, if the condition is true, they will do it again. Again, the condition is true, they will do it again. Right? So this is what the meaning of the do while loop. That if you have to execute the block of code at least one without depending upon the condition. To repeat it, you have to check the condition from the second time. If it is true, repeat it. Right? So very easy. Conditional statement to select the few line of code to be executed or few line to be skipped depending upon the conditional statement, if else or switch to different type. Next is the looping statement where we do the for loop, while loop, or the do while loop. For loop when we know the exact how many times we have to run the loop. While loop when we don't know the exact number, but we know until the condition is true, you have to do it. And do while loop when you have to execute the set of code once without checking the condition. That's called as do while loop. Easy. Now next is about the functions. Now what is function? So any predefined set of codes, any block of codes, right, which is being called in the future program. Just for an example, you know how to find the average, right? To find the average, what we do is sum of all the terms by number of terms. So when we store this formula, this logic, sum of all the terms by number of terms in one word called as average, right? And then wherever we have to calculate the mean or average, we simply call it average and then give the inputs. So what will happen? The simply average will be calculated. Every time we don't have to do the sum and divide it by the number of terms, right? So that is called as a function, where a block of code perform a specific task which are predefined, right? Defined with a function name and parameters. What is parameter? The input that we are using in that inside that block of code are called as the parameter. That called throughout the program and execute define the functionality. So anywhere in the program, if you want to execute the same thing, you simply call it by the name of the function. Passing the arguments. What are the arguments? If we write any kind of arguments, if you write any kind of functions and we simply pass it through the arguments, right? We simply pass it through any kind of input, and that is basically called as the arguments. We write average here, and inside that average, if you will simply write whatever inputs are, right? The number of sum of terms like n1, n2, all the numbers. So all these input that you are providing, that is called as the parameters, right? Or the arguments. And every function returns some kind of values, right? The functions can return a value after the execution, and it is very useful to collect the result. So that was about the function, right? Where a set of block of code are predefined in nature and perform their task. Easy. Now, next is about the algorithm. As we have seen in the designing of the code, that we write algorithm, pseudocode, or the flow chart, right, to make the program, right? So the word algorithm means that a process or a set of rules to be followed in the calculation or the other problem solving operation. This algorithm refers to the set of rule or instruction that step by step define how a work is to be executed in order to get an expected result. For an example, if you have to make a lemonade, right, to take a glass of water, squeeze a half lemon, add some sugar, mix it up, this is called as its algorithm of a lemonade, right? The same way, if you are writing in a simple English language, if you're writing a simple English language to make or to identify that the number is positive or negative, what do we write? We write, take an input of a number, compare it with a zero, right? Compare if the number is greater than 0, it's a positive number. If the number is less than 0, it's a negative number, right? So that is called as their algorithm, which has been written in a simple English language, and which is actually free or independent of any programming language. That does not dependent of any language. We don't have to write the different algorithm for the Java or C or C++ or Python. The same algorithm can be translated in any of the language. That's basically the logic. Algorithm refers to the set of rule or the instruction or the step-by-step procedure, right, which has been defined that how a work is to be executed. Easy, we understand, right? And this is the basic meaning: input and set of rule obtained to provide the expected output, right? To generate the output from the given input, the algorithm works. The next is the flowchart. Now, what is flowchart? Flowchart is a graphical representation of an algorithm, right? To represent the algorithm using some graphical figures like of oval shape, right, rectangle, parallelogram. We basically make a flowchart that tells us more about the flow of the program. That what will happen if the condition is false, what will happen if the condition is true, like of this. Programmers often use it as a program planning tool, or we can say the designing tool of a problem to solve a problem. It makes the use of symbols which are connected among to indicate the flow of the program or information. The process of drawing a flow chart for an algorithm is known as flow charting. The process of making a flow chart is called as flow charting. But how to make using some figure. These are the figures, right? The start and end are been represented using the oval shape. Then arrow, a line is been used as a connector to represent the relationship between the representative shapes. Then to take any input or to provide any output, we use a parallelogram, right? To show the process, to check the logic, we use the rectangle. And to make any decisions, we are having a rectangle, or basically a diamond or a kite like a figure. Whereas to connect the two different function or two different modules of a program, we use a circle. For an example, I'm just making one flowchart here of taking out that the number is even or odd, right? So how to do? So first of all, oval shape and start here, right? After starting a program, what will happen? After starting a program, we have to take a input, right? Take a input of a number, and to take a input, what do we have is parallelogram. So we take a input of a number. Let's suppose input input A is a number. Now what? We have to process it, check that what is the value of the modulo with the 2. We check that A modulo 2 is what, right? And if A modulo 2 is 0, so we make a decision call here, right? We make a decision call here that if it is 0, right? If it is 0, if it is yes, or if it is no. So if it is yes, we have to give the output once again. So for the output, we'll make a parallelogram. And in that output, we'll write E. E means simply even, right? And if it is no, then O. O means odd. Sorry, it will be a parallelogram. We'll write O. And after this, finally, the program will end, right? So we make an oval again and end. So this is the one flow chart, right? That tells us about how the flow of one program to identify that the number is odd or even has been flowing on. First, we start, take the input, then do the processing, and finally we check the decision, right? That if it is 0, if the A modulo 2 is 0. If yes, right? If it is 0, then even, otherwise odd. And finally end the program. So this is how the flow charting is been working on. It's a very simple process, comes under the designing of a problem to understand the flow of the program, that how the program has been going on. Now, whatever we have discussed, the basic summary, that programming, also known as coding, is a process of creating a set of instructions that tells a computer how to perform a specific task, right? What type of error do we have? Syntax error, logical error, the error in the grammar or error in the structure, right? That will be called as a syntax error, and error in the logic that creates a wrong output, that calls as a logical error. Variable are the container that hold the data and can be assigned different values during the program execution. Data type tell us about what type of data this variable can hold and how much space should be allocated to the variable inside the memory that we have seen. Any expression is said to be the combination of operator and operators. We have discussed operands are on which the operation should be performed, and operator tell us what operation we are going to perform. So we have seen this. Now let's start it with the quiz. Right, the first question: what is programming? The process of designing computer hardware or writing instruction that a computer can perform a task, or repairing of the software, analyzing. So option B is look more most appropriate one. What is a program or a set of instruction that a computer can execute, or what it is called, right? So after executing the called, we discuss it, that calls as a software. Software also is of two types, if you know, right? The software is also of two type. One is called as the application software that performs your specific task, like of making document, right, like of making any PPT and all. Whereas some other one is called as system software. Now, what is system software? That one which controls the hardware. That program which translate the user's input for the hardware, that tells the hardware how to perform, what to perform, right? That is called as system software. For an example, the OS that you are using, the operating system you are using, Windows, Mac, Linux, all these are the system software. Whereas the MS Word, PPT, right, all these VLC media player, all these are the designed for the specific task. So they are called as the application software. Now, what is the purpose of a variable in the programming? What is variable? Variable is to store the data that can be changed. That cannot be changed is the wrong one. That's called as a constant, but can be changed during the program in the execution. So option A looks more appropriate. Result of the following expression: 5 plus 3 into 2. So 3 into 2 is 6 and plus 5 is 11. Right? You remember the board mass? The same kind of rule follows here also. Not exactly as the board mass, but yes, similar to that. Some priority has been set while solving expression. Right? Multiply, divide has been done first, then plus minus will be done, like of this. So here, if you apply the board mass also, 3 plus 2 is 6 and 6 plus 5 is 11. But if you don't apply, what you will do is 5 plus 3, 8, 8 2 are 16. You will mark 16, but 16 will be the wrong answer, right? So the right answer will be 11 only. And then the last question, the conditional statement means what, right? So that basically make a decision based on the condition. That's what's meaning of the conditional statement. So easy. The first answer, second answer has been given. And thank you very much for your time to understand the basic introduction of the programming. In the next video, we'll be discuss the more concepts, and finally we'll step into some specific language. And whatever the new topics you required, just comment in pin in the chat box. Pin your doubts in the chat box. I'll be available to answer your doubts about any discussion that we made. So thank you so much for your time, and all the best for your future comings.